Most painters, myself included, tend to avoid painting faces when we're just starting out. So in this tutorial, I want to show you a method that requires almost no technical skill at all, just beginner techniques and a bit of decision making behind each step. The goal here isn't perfection, it's getting a clean, readable face on the table without fear, frustration, or overthinking. I am going to keep this super simple by using some pre-mixed skin tones, but feel free to pick whichever colors you prefer, or even mix your own, like I showed in a previous face painting tutorial. To begin with, I am using the darkest of the three colors to apply an even base coat using two thin coats. I will be showcasing this method on two different examples, one that's a bit larger and more defined, and another that's smaller with softer facial features, so you can see how this approach adapts to different sculpts. After this base coat, you might imagine that we need to reach for a very small brush and carefully start working on tiny details. But instead we're going to do the opposite. We'll be using some small makeup brushes and pairing them with a technique you're probably already familiar with, dry brushing. Like I promised, little to no skill required. But that doesn't mean we won't be making conscious decisions though. It just means we're using a very straightforward technique in a way that gives us the most control and consistency. For this first dry brush using our mid-tone, we want to keep our brush movement mostly from top to bottom. This helps us catch only the upward facing parts of the raised details, while keeping the would-be shadows intact underneath. But to complete this first step, I will also move the brush in a sort of triangular motion, from top left to bottom right and vice versa. This helps us pick up all the smaller raised details around the eyes and mouth like the cheekbones, while still maintaining contrast thanks to the direction of the brush strokes. Finally, with our third brightest tone, I will dry brush again, but much more selectively. This time I am focusing only on the center of the face, and moving the brush from left to right. This will mostly catch the nose and the eyebrow area, creating a subtle spotlight effect right in the middle of the face. All of this is a good example of how even very basic techniques, when used with intention, can elevate a paint job far beyond what you might expect. We are not adding complexity, we are just choosing where it matters most. At this point, you might notice that the dry brushing leaves behind a slightly dusty or chalky finish, and that's completely normal. That is why the next step is to blend everything together using a wash. Washes don't just enhance shadows by settling into the recesses. Because they are applied over all of the surface, a thin layer also remains over the raised details, which leaves a subtle filter over the entire surface. With darker washes, these can tone colors down, but here we are using that effect to our advantage, to pull rough transitions together and unify all the layers. This is another case of using beginner techniques intelligently. Instead of applying the wash early in the process to tackle shadows fast, we are saving it for the end, so it blends everything together in one pass, instead of forcing us to fix transitions later. With that done, we already have a simple but effective skin tone. But a face isn't complete without a few smaller details, and the one that causes the most trouble by far is the eyes. So in an effort to keep this process as simple as possible, I once again decided to leave my small brush to the side and try something different, the toothpick method. A toothpick has a very fine tip, and unlike a brush, it doesn't bend. This makes it surprisingly easy to stamp small dots into the eyes. But not all eyes are perfectly round. Some are half closed or obscured by the sculpt. Still, at miniature scale, this doesn't really matter. And remember that while you're watching this from up close, the face itself is smaller than my fingertip. As a side note, when painting eyes, I always recommend starting by blacking out the area first. This frames the eye and creates the illusion of eyelids. If you ever felt that a white dot alone over the skin tone looks strange, try starting with a dark dot next time. It makes a huge difference. As for the toothpick itself, this was my first time using it for this purpose, and I think it works, but with limits. While I was able to place a pupil inside the white area and inside the dark frame, it did come out a bit wobbly. And that's something important to point out. This isn't a magic tool that instantly solves painting eyes. It's just another option, one that lowers the barrier of entry, but still requires a steady hand and will need a bit of practice. Therefore, I recommend sticking to a brush and doing your best. I am sorry I don't have a simpler solution for it, but I've been in your place before. I used to dread painting eyes, and it would take me 5 or even 10 attempts to get a single one right. But with time and practice, this has become one of my favorite parts of painting a model. Now, not only do I get the usual "how did you paint something so small" question, but I also get to add expression to my models, and make them feel more alive on the table. So in the end, there really isn't a shortcut, just practice, patience, and doing your best each time. If faces feel intimidating right now, that's normal. Everyone goes through that stage. But if you keep coming back to it, one day you'll realize it stopped being scary and started being fun. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope this video helped make face painting feel a bit more approachable, and that it encourages you to pick up a brush and give it another try.